Welcome back to Forest Hill United Methodist Church's podcast, It Takes a Village. I am Reverend Justin Snyder, and today we are talking with Aaron Lambert. Aaron has served on all kinds of committees at the church. He has played the organ, he leads and teaches in a Sunday school class, and now he is serving as the choir director as well as the organist. So we're so glad that you're here with us. For those who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got to Forest Hill and kind of what do you do here?
How far back do you want me to go? I was
all
born in a tiny hospital in West Virginia. My wife Elise and I moved here with our then 3 kids to Concord in 2016, and we spent about a year looking for the right church. We thought we had found a church that fit and went there for about 6 months and then decided that wasn't the right fit, and so we were kind of discouraged. We just thought maybe the right church wasn't out there. It was hard to visit churches with very young kids, and I was looking and I saw Forest Hill's website, and I saw that they did a lot of community mission work and outreach in the neighborhood, and that they had a big footprint just doing service in the community, and said, well, maybe we should try them out. And we decided to be brave and just show up one Sunday morning with our kids. And there was a Sunday school teacher who I can still see today kneeling down with her arms wide open to welcome our kids into the class. And the kids were hooked, and the people were so kind and welcoming. And so in 2017, we decided this was our new church home, and have never had a second guess about it. And they helped us welcome our 4th child into the family, and we still have that same Sunday school teacher because we have more kids who are still in that age group. And we really loved that Forest Hill was so present in the community, and boots on the ground, getting their hands dirty, doing the work that needs to be done for the people right next to them. So that was kind of what brought us here.
Yeah, I remember when you first got here. I didn't hear this, but Mandy had talked about how y'all were wanting to find out more about the church. I think you were the only person, Mandy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, who was ever asked to read the Book of Discipline. And read it. All of the paragraphs and subparagraphs. And so I just remember that about kind of right when y'all first got here. As one of our first contacts was, somebody wants to read our bylaws as a denomination?
Well, I grew up Baptist, and we didn't have a whole lot of rules. And then we went to a Presbyterian church for a while, and I had read the Book of Order for that church because I was just intrigued that a church would have everything so nicely outlined. And I had never been part of a Methodist church before, and when I heard they had something similar, I was like, well, I want to see what I'm getting into. I want to see what's different and what's the same and all that. So I'm a little nerdy that way.
Yeah. So you got here, and I don't even know how we found out, but at some point we found out that you played music, and then at some point we found out you played organ. And then you kind of disclosed the cards as you went. We found out you used to be a choir director, and that you're passionate about music in addition to all the other things you do in your life. So tell us a little bit about the role of music.
Well, I grew up with a father who couldn't carry a tune, but a mother who was very musical. She was a music major for a couple of years in college before she switched to nursing, and I grew up with her singing in the choir, and she tried to teach me to piano, and I was too little and wouldn't take it seriously from my own mother. So she set me up with somebody else to do piano lessons for a while. And really the interest in music, though, budded in the church that I grew up in. There was an elderly man in my grandmother's Sunday school class who always played a hymn for her Sunday school class to sing before they started their lessons every Sunday. And he would just hand me this old piece of music when he knew I was learning how to play and I was still really beginner level stuff. And then one Sunday he said, why don't you come in and just play a song for us before we get started? And so I found something and I played this, I don't even remember what it was, really basic song. And, their grandmother's Sunday school class just thought it was wonderful and clapped and everything. And it made me want to come back and do it again. And then eventually he said, why don't you play the hymn instead of me for starting the class? And so I started play, and that was my job. I would get to school, and before I would go to my Sunday school class, I would go to my grandmother's and play the hymn for her class, and he very gladly took a seat and sang, and kept doing that up until that class kind of ran out of people. And then when I got a little older, I was in 6th grade. Our church did a summer choir where youth members could come and sing for the summertime, and I did that. And at the end of the summer, when I was starting 7th grade, our choir director said, "We really need tenors. Why don't you just keep on and practice the Christmas cantata with us?" And I was thrilled to get to sing with the grown-ups, and so they suffered through a young boy hitting puberty while trying to sing tenor in a choir, and all the cracks and creaks and things that come out of a boy's voice then, and just kind of kept going with it. And his wife was the organist, and she eventually said, "Why don't you play piano on the hymns with me on Sunday morning while I play organ?" And I started doing that. And then she said, "Hey, have you ever tried playing organ? Let me show you how to do." And so she showed me a little bit about organ. And by that time I was finishing high school, and when I went into college, I was a music minor. And I took a couple of semesters of organ and had an elderly, very strict organ teacher that's exactly what you would picture an organ professor would be, the short little old man in big, thick glasses, Mr. Zabel. And he was furious that I played organ in sock feet. And he's like, "Nobody in my studio is going to play in sock feet." So I had to learn to play with shoes on. And now ever since I've played with shoes on, because I hear Mr. Zabel's voice, like, "You will not play with socks." And so then when our choir director and his wife decided to retire, they asked me if I would take over doing the organ and the piano there. And I did that for a couple of years. And it just kind of kept on going from there.
Yeah, and then you also became a music director.
Mm-hmm. At the same church, we did a lot of choir songs with recorded CD tracks. So I would play for the hymns and then direct to the CD tracks. And then we left that church and went to a friend's church for a year before we moved to North Carolina, because they needed a choir director. And so I thought I would go there and help at that church for a little while. And then we moved to North Carolina.
So here at Forest Hill, we started out and you played organ, and you would step in if ever I wasn't there, and you would play. And as of the last month, Aaron has taken on the role of choir director. And so that's something that I'm really excited about, because it allows me an opportunity to do all these other things. And also I've seen this gift in you too. And so I'm really excited for that. And for the choir to get to experience it in the church. What are some things that you're excited about in this?
Well, I'm excited that you're excited, because you have made such a wonderful music program here. I'm going to brag on you for a minute. You have done...
We can cut this part out later.
No, you're not. You've done such a good job building up a community within the choir where people look forward to coming to choir, and they're excited to come and sing, and they get to sing lots of different things. And you still hold them to a standard where they feel like they're being challenged and pushed. And you've done it for, 10 years? Longer?
Yeah, maybe 11.
And that's a lot to step into. And so I never wanted all these times I'd say, "Well, I can play this if you need." Like I never wanted to come across as I was trying to butt in or take over anything. So I'm really excited that you're excited, because that's an intimidating place to step into. But I think it's been really fun. We have a really talented choir who enjoys being challenged and being pushed to learn new things and do new things, and they like to laugh, and they just like to make music. And so what better situation to work with than that?
So we've been on this podcast talking about this idea of what we're doing at Gibson Village, how we're trying to foster and create community and fellowship and connection, not necessarily focused on an event or something that comes up, but more about just naturally the way that we express our faith in our world. I really wanted to have you on because I think music is one of those unique spaces where that happens too. And so we've been talking about the importance of community and fellowship and how we build connection. And so I'd love to see what you think of as gifts at places like choir or music, or even small groups that you can be a part of, or Sunday school classes. How do they gift community? As an expression of just naturally it bubbles up in what they do?
Well, one of the things I learned about the Methodist Church was that we talk a lot about let me see if I get this right, our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness.
Hey.
And one of the things I think small groups, which including choir, gives more than anything is a sense of presence and a sense of belonging. It's exciting to go into a big sanctuary with a lot of people, but it's also easy to disappear in that and not feel like you have any ownership in things or any accountability in things. And so small group Sunday school classes and weekday groups and things like choir kind of bring a big group down to a smaller group that's more personable and more accountable, where you feel like people are going to miss me if I'm not there. They're going to ask me where I was, and you feel like you have something to contribute. So I think those are the things that really make people stick around. And if we're lucky, they make people come in the first place, but they definitely are the things that keep people coming back week to week. And music for me, as somebody who is not great at expressing emotion well, I think music was always kind of a channel for me to get feelings out in a way that was safe and kind of almost scripted, because you had words for the song, you had notes to sing or to play that somebody else had come up with, but you could put your own emotion behind them. So it was a place where if somebody like me, and I'm sure there are other people out there who aren't great at expressing feelings or expressing emotions, you find this way that somebody else has already written for you to put your feelings out into the world or to share them with other people. So I think, to me, that's the joy of music. You can make people cry happy tears. You can make people cry sad tears if you pick the right song. I was just talking with a coworker friend the other day about a song that she heard somebody play, and she said, I was immediately taken back to sitting next to my grandmother in church because that was a song she always sang and I liked. And so all of a sudden you're connected to your past and to other generations that have come before you. And then you have songs you teach your kids, and then you're connected to them because they remember you. So it's just music is a really neat way, I think, to bridge all of those things together.
Yeah, and I think when we name that or claim that in these spaces, it provides opportunity for deeper connection than maybe we kind of take it for granted. So tonight we're recording this after choir, and we were really giving somebody a hard time because we changed the song and we just thought for sure they were going to be there because they loved this song. Yeah. And so we had this big conversation. It was a bunch of laughter, but really I think at the heart of that conversation was saying, when we did this song, you were someone we thought of. So we had this connection that we were already making. You were talking about connecting with people in our past and our present. And I think music does that. It enables us to not only see others, but see ourselves and have a place for us to be seen. I think that's a wonderful part about music. And so thinking about those connections and that kind of that community aspect and things like that, we've been trying to figure out ways that we as a church use our gifts, and we have these things that just naturally bubble up in who we are, like our identity or our DNA, that we can see as meaningful parts of our worship community that we hope to share with this new Gibson project. And so as somebody who has been at the church, I guess almost as long as me, about 8 or 9 years, but who have children in the church, and y'all are a part of small groups and you do all these things. What is it that you see that are gifts of Forest Hill that we have to offer when we do things like music or when we branch out into the community and our Gibson project?
I think the thing that's always impressed me about Forest Hill and attracted us here in the first place, and we have seen hold true over the last 8 or 9 years, is Forest Hill's commitment and willingness to fill whatever need is present. And I mean, just the very fact that we are branching into Gibson Mill kind of speaks to that. But I think one of the things that we have to offer is kind of that flexibility of, if we get there and we establish something and we see that maybe this part fits a need well, but this part doesn't quite fit, we are not so proud as to say, but this is what we came up with and this is what we're going to do. We'll say, this is not what the community needs. They need this. We're going to pivot and change and grow into the space where it's needed, and partner with other people along the way. And so even as we are trying to create community from its absence, we are at the same time trying to draw other people in and partner with them. And not everybody does that. I think there are sometimes people go into a space and say, I know what you need and this is what we're going to do. And I feel like what Forest Hill has is the ability to say, we're here, what can we do to help you? And then we, most importantly, listen to that and kind of act on that. So I don't know if you're looking for a more tangible answer than that.
No,
but
I think that's.
But I think that is the thing that has always impressed me about Forest Hill, is just the ability to ask the right questions and then listen to the answers.
Yeah, I think that's really what we hope. Like, we hope that in what we're doing, that we're allowing the Spirit to be at work. We're praying that along the way that we won't get so locked into what we think or what we expect or what we hope other people will want. But be open to being in community with people so that we can, hear what they have to offer, hear the things that they have that are important, and the ways that we come alongside people. So I appreciate you kind of that insight, that kind of affirmation of who we hope to be. We know we don't always live into that well, but we really hope to be that in our world. Yeah. So we have one final.
What about Beth? Talk a little bit about Beth's role and what she brings to the table.
So Mandy from Offside said, tell us a little bit about Beth.
Yeah. So as you and I were making this transition, we had this, I don't know if it felt like a crisis of faith to you, but it did a little bit to me but if I'm going to be up there, who's going to play? And am I going to have to play and try to direct or are you going to have to play? And so I think a step of faith was to say, we're going to create this position. We're going to design it for what we feel like Forest Hill needs, and we're going to put it out there and see what we get. And we had an abundance of applications. It was truly a blessing. And the one that clearly bubbled to the top was Beth, who has now joined our kind of music staff as our pianist keyboardist for the 9:00 service, and then as a pianist to accompany the choir. And she has really brought, I think, a fresh perspective and an outside new perspective and new life to the music. She brings a lot of talent. I can just hand her a song and say, we're going to do this one right now. What do you think? And she'll say, okay, let's do it. And as she got started, I started asking her, well, would you like to also play this? Or why don't you play hymns with me on the service? And you could tell she was just almost bursting with excitement to get to play. She just loves to play music, and that's exactly what we needed, and she does it very well. So I think she has really added an extra dimension to the music itself. She's added an extra layer when one of us is sick or is out of town, and when we've got enough coverage to make sure that we always have the music that we want and that we need. So she has truly been, and she's just a delightful, joyful person to talk to. So she
knows how to banter with not only you or myself, but every single person in choir. She can lob one right back at anybody.
Yep.
So
she can take a joke and give one back and laugh along with the rest of us. And so she's really been a great addition.
Yeah. So we're really excited for Beth. So I get to hear her play at 9:00 worship. So I get to hear all the things that she brings that are just so different from what we've had before. So it's really exciting to hear how people use their gifts and recognize that they're all different and they all have unique and wonderful things about all of them. So I have one last question for you. And this is a question that we've been asking everybody every time they come. And the question is, as we seek to kind of discern the ways that we are expanding our ministry, like we're doing this thing at Gibson Village, and as we think about kind of your role or what you do, what is it that you hope still rings true in a couple years?
About Forest Hill?
About your role, about music, or what we're doing as a church, anything.
I hope people are still coming to choir practice in 2 years.
You heard it here first.
and maybe even have a few more people inquire 2 years from now. I think for Forest Hill as a whole, I hope that I know that society changes, the neighborhood changes, Forest Hill leadership changes from time to time. I hope that we still have the courage that we have now. It takes a lot of courage to step out and say, we're going to start a new service in a different part of town, a few blocks away, or we're going to change this worship, or we're going to bring in this new person. Like those things take courage and faith to do. But if you do them for the right reasons, I think they work out. And so I hope that in 2 years, we still have that courage to do what we know is the right thing and the thing that people need, whether it is the popular thing or the trendy thing or the acceptable thing in society, that we still do the right thing anyway, and that we have that about us.
Love that. Being faithful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. And we look forward to chatting again sometime, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.